The Balearic Islands. For millennia, a strategic crossroads of cultures in the Mediterranean. Now they're a popular beach destination for predominantly British and German tourists. Ibiza is famous for its pill-popping parties, and Mallorca for large hotels and miles of beaches. But in this video we'll talk about visiting the forgotten of the three islands, Menorca. Sure, you could go there for a beach vacation, and many do. But the reason I went there is for the history, as I've never found another place with more history per square mile than Minorca. And damn it, this is my channel, so I get to pick what I talk about. So let's explore the island of Minorca and see why I recommend a trip there if you're anywhere nearby. Let's start with a crash course on the history. Minorca's history begins in prehistory, as early as 2100 BC. Unlike much of the Mediterranean, the culture of Minorca remained consistent well into the Bronze and Iron Age, where the inhabitants erected many stone structures called taliots, leading to the culture of the people being known as Talayotic, which flourished between 500 and 300 BC. The Balearic Islands were known for their mercenary slingers, who famously served with Hannibal in his campaigns, and later with anyone who could afford them. During the Punic Wars, the island fell under the domain of Carthage before the Romans conquered the island in 123 BC. After the Roman Empire fell, the island changed hands more times than perhaps any other piece of real estate. The Vandals conquered the island in the 400s AD, and the Byzantines retook the island in 534. It was annexed by the Caliphate of Cordoba in 903, where it remained Muslim until the Christians took it in 1231. At that time it was independent until Aragon annexed the island in 1287 and became part of Spain when the crowns were united after the marriage of Ferdinand and Isabella in 1492. That didn't mean the islands remained peaceful. The Ottomans destroyed the two cities on the island in the 16th century, and Barbary pirates raided the island for years. It was captured by the British in 1708 and annexed by them in 1713. Not to be left out of the fun, the French captured it in 1756 during the Seven Years' War, though they returned it to the British in the peace treaty in 1763. In 1782, during the American War of Independence, the French and Spanish took it again, and Spain got to keep it this time. At least until 1798, when the British took it back during the turmoil of the French Revolutionary Wars, though it was returned back to Spain. But even that's not the end of it. During the Spanish Civil War, while the other Balearic Islands sided with the nationalists, Minorca remained with the Republicans and was bombed and invaded numerous times. At the end of the Civil War, it was turned over to the nationalists, who proceeded to turn parts of the island into penal and execution camps. Why did I go through this abbreviated history? Well, it goes to show that Minorca was a nexus of so many countries and cultures over the centuries, and each of them left a mark on the land, culture, and food. There are 1,574 Talayotic ruins on this 269 square mile island. There are Byzantine churches. There are forts from the English, French, and Spanish. The most famous cocktail on the island is based on English gin. The windows of the buildings are of an English style. And as the story goes, after defeating the English, the French commander, Armand de Virneau de Plessis, ordered a feast, but only eggs and oil were available to make a sauce with, and the chef invented a sauce to celebrate the defense of the city of Mahon called mayonnaise, or mayonnaise, right there. You'll literally be stumbling over this history any way you go on the island, so let's talk about logistics. The island from end to end is only 30 miles long, and on average from north to south coast is only 10 miles wide. There's only two real cities on the island, Ciutadella on the west side and Mahon, the capital, on the east side. Apologies in advance, but the language spoken is not only Catalan, but a Menorquí dialect that I am guaranteed to completely butcher. There's one airport located on the island near Mahon, Aeropuerto de Menorca, with year-round flights from Palma de Mallorca on Air Europa, Valencia on Ryanair, Vueling from Barcelona, and Iberia from Madrid, Palma, and Valencia. But in the summer, there are seasonal flights to everywhere, from London, Vienna, Bratislava, Zurich, and even Helsinki. To get around, while you could take a bus to one of the cities, let's be honest, you really need a car, so go rent one. I only had 2 full days on the island, way too short of a time. But here's what I recommend you see, starting with the Talayotic ruins. There's over 1,500 of them after all, including some at the airport, but here are the highlights. Right near Mahon is Taula y Talayote Trepuco, the prehistoric capital of the island. just north of the airport is Talayotic de Torreo and the nearby Byzantine church of Saint Clement. Next is Talati de Dalt, a sanctuary with one of the largest stones on the island. Torreballa den Salort Talayotic is smaller but precisely chiseled, making it perhaps the most photogenic of the sites. Poblat de Torre den Galmes is a huge site, including ruins from many different cultures, from the Talayotic people all the way to Muslim inhabitants. Torreya Funda is located in the middle of a cow field and features both a Talayotic and a large naveta burial mound containing 100 graves. Next is Naveta des Tundos, a burial monument from 1200 BC, one of the oldest buildings in Europe, and arguably the oldest freestanding structure. While on the west side of the island, be sure to stop at Pont d'Engil, a promontory rock into the Mediterranean connected by an arch. On the north side of the island is the town of Fornelles, defended from the sea by a tower constructed by the French. On yet another peninsula is Cape Cavalleria, with a large lighthouse overlooking the cliffs. Back near Mahon, the city was historically defended by Saint-Philippe Castle, though it has been mostly demolished. Fort Marlborough was built in the 18th century by the British and was remodeled and rebuilt multiple times as it repeatedly changed hands between the British, French, and Spanish. Wanting to put an end to all this international game of hot potato, in 1875, the Spanish built the massive Mola fortress, designed to be a completely impregnable barrier to the harbor of Mahon. The fortress's guns never fired in anger, but massive 15-inch Vickers guns installed in 1934 kept watch for any nationalist forces. After Franco's victory, the fort was used as a prison for many enemies of Franco's regime. So that's the history. What about the beaches? Well, as I've said in other videos, beaches aren't really my thing. You won't find miles of sandy beaches here like on Mallorca, but instead smaller beaches scattered around the island. I went to Cala Binibeca, straight south from Mahon. It's just how it looks, perhaps a nice respite for a day, but not the most idyllic beach destination. Back in the town of Mahon, it's important to know that it's split in two parts, an upper and lower town, with a very long staircase connecting them. Pick one at a time, trust me. The lower town is home to the harbor, the winding road by the water, while the upper town is located on a hill with its winding streets and plazas, albeit influenced by English architecture. So that's the island of Minorca. No, I personally wouldn't spend a week there like many European tourists do. But for a truly unique place influenced by so many different cultures over the millennia, one-of-a-kind archaeological sites, beautiful Mediterranean views, tasty Spanish food, all in a package you can traverse in under 40 minutes, it's definitely worth a visit, in my book. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click that button and please subscribe for these travel stories as well as my more traditional flight reviews. I'll see you on the next one.